Jake Morrison sat in his captain's chair on the bridge of the UES Liberty. His hands were tight on the armrests as he watched the news feed from Kepler Station. The images made his stomach hurt. 17 human colonists lay dead on the ground. Their crime was simple. They had grown food too well. The Zilani Trade Consortium had killed them for it. They called it aggressive farming practices. Everyone knew it was a lie. The humans had just been better at growing crops than the aliens expected. The soil on Kepler 7 was supposed to be impossible to farm. The aliens had tried for 50 years and failed. The humans made it work in just 2 years. That made the Zilani angry. Very angry. Lisa Parker stood beside Jake's chair. She was the ship's doctor and scientist. She had studied alien biology for 20 years. Right now she looked sick. "I can't watch this anymore," she said. She turned away from the screen. Jake kept watching. He had to. As a captain in the Earth Defense Force, it was his job to know what happened to humans in space, even when it hurt to watch. Especially when it hurt to watch. The news reporter was a Thexian. His voice sounded like breaking glass when he spoke. "The Galactic Council has voted on the Kepler 7 incident," he said. 847 species voted to support the Zilani action. Only one species voted against it. That one species was humanity. Earth's voice in the council meant nothing. It never had. The reporter continued. "The council agrees that the human colonists broke the farming laws. The Zilani had every right to stop them. The execution was legal under galactic law." Jake turned. Off the screen. He could not watch anymore. In the silence that followed, he could hear his crew breathing. Everyone was angry. Everyone was tired. They had all heard this story before. Different planet, different aliens, same result. Humans died and the galaxy said it was legal. Lisa sat down in her chair. 30 years, she said. 30 years since first contact. 30 years of trying to prove we belong here. 30 years of being polite and following their rules. And they still kill us for being good at things they can't do. Jake nodded. He remembered when humans first met aliens. Everyone on Earth had been so excited. Finally, they were not alone in the universe. There were thousands of species out there, millions of worlds to explore. It seemed like a dream come true. The dream became a nightmare quickly. The aliens called Earth a death world. They said humans were too dangerous because they came from a planet that tried to kill everything on it. They were afraid of humans, but they hid it behind rules and laws and politics. Every time humans did something well, the aliens found a way to punish them. Humans were too strong, so they made rules about what jobs humans could have. Humans learned too fast, so they made rules about what humans could study. Humans grew food too well, so they made rules about farming. And when humans broke these unfair rules, even by accident, the aliens killed them for it. Dr. Parker looked at Jake. "What happens now?" she asked. Jake was quiet for a long time. Finally, he spoke. "I don't know, but I know something has to change. We can't keep living like this." On Earth, in the capital city of New Geneva, Ambassador Frank Collins walked into his office. He had just come from the Galactic Council meeting. His aide, Mary Johnson, looked up from her desk. She could see from his face that the news was bad. "They upheld it," Collins said. He sat down hard in his chair. "Every single one of them voted against us except the Karathi. And they only abstained because they weren't sure what aggressive farming meant." Mary had been Collins' aide for 5 years. She had seen him angry before, but never like this. His hands were shaking. "The Thexian Chancellor laughed," Collins continued. "Actually laughed when I gave our protest. He said maybe if humans focused less on expanding and more on knowing their place, tragedies like this could be avoided." Mary felt her own anger rising. "Our place?" she asked. "What does that mean?" Collins looked out the window at the city below. "It means under their boots, always under their boots. No matter what we do, no matter how hard we try to fit in, we will always be the dangerous Deathworlders to them." That night, Colin sent a message to Earth Command. It was short and simple. The diplomatic option is dead. Whatever you're planning, you have my support. Across human space, similar messages were being sent. On mining stations and research posts on cargo ships and patrol vessels, humans were talking to each other in ways they had not talked for 30 years. The words were different, but the meaning was always the same. We tried their way. Now we try ours. Colonel Danny Walker sat in his office on Titan Base. The message from Earth Command was open on his screen. Operation Reminder. After 30 years of waiting, it was finally time. He thought about his daughter. She was grown now, with children of her own. She lived on a colony world in the Outer Rim. Every day she lived under the threat that some alien government would decide humans were too dangerous to let live. Walker had been a soldier for 40 years. He knew about war. He knew about peace. He knew that sometimes you had to fight to protect the people you loved. For 30 years, humanity had chosen peace. They had chosen to be smaller, weaker, less than what they really were. Tomorrow, that would end. Walker opened his communication system and began sending orders to human military units across the galaxy. The orders were simple. Stop pretending. Stop hiding. Stop being less than human. It was time to show the galaxy what Deathworlders really looked like when they stopped playing nice. The first sign that something had changed came at 800 Galactic Standard Time. Across 17 sectors, human ships simply went quiet. No responses to calls, no answers to trade requests, no participation in joint patrols. The humans had disappeared from galactic communications entirely. Admiral Ryan Torres stood on the bridge of the UES Montana, flagship of the 3rd Defense Fleet. Around him, his crew worked at their stations with grim purpose. For the first time in 30 years, they were not pretending to be something they were not. "All human vessels report ready, sir," said Lieutenant Amy Foster from the communication station. "We're running silent across all sectors as ordered." Torres nodded. The plan was simple in concept, but had taken 3 decades to put in place. Every human ship, station, and colony had been carefully positioned. What looked like random expansion to the aliens was actually the most sophisticated military deployment in galactic history. On the agricultural world of New Montana, colony, Director Ben Murphy spoke to his people over the settlement's communication system. The colonists gathered in the main square, 2,000 faces looking up at him with hope and fear. "Friends," Murphy said, "for 30 years we've lived under their rules. We've made ourselves smaller so they wouldn't be afraid. We've hidden our strength so they would let us exist. Today that ends." The crowd was silent. Many of them had been born on New Montana. They had grown up knowing that humans had to be careful, had to be quiet, had to never show what they could really do. The idea of change was both exciting and terrifying. "We are not their pets," Murphy continued. "We are not their servants. We are humans, and we come from Earth. Earth, where everything tries to kill you and we learn to kill back. Today, we remind the galaxy who we really are." The first real test came in the Vega system. The hegemony battlecruiser Pax Dominion was 3 kilometers long and armed with enough firepower to crack a moon. It approached a lone human freighter, the UES Dakota, and demanded it submit to inspection. Captain Nicole Price sat in the Dakota's command chair and looked at the massive alien warship on her screen. For 30 years, humans would have immediately surrendered. They would have allowed the aliens to search their ship, confiscate their cargo, and arrest anyone the aliens felt like arresting. "Negative," Price said into her communicator. "Find another target." The alien captain was shocked. In 30 years, no human had ever refused a hegemony inspection. "Human vessel, you will comply immediately or face the consequences." Price smiled. It was not a nice smile. "I said no. If you want to make this interesting, go ahead and try." The Pax Dominion moved to intercept the Dakota. The alien ship was 10 times larger and carried 1,000 times more firepower. Any sane person would have surrendered immediately. Humans, as the galaxy was about to learn, were not always sane. The UES Yorktown dropped out of hyperspace directly behind the hegemony cruiser. The human destroyer was small compared to the alien ship, but size was not everything. Captain Steve Mitchell had been waiting 30 years for this moment. "Fire," he said simply. The Dakota's weapon systems revealed their true nature. What had looked like standard cargo containers opened to show missile tubes. What had looked like civilian mining equipment was actually a relativistic kinetic cannon. The outdated human weapons hit the Pax Dominion with the force of a small star. The hegemony battlecruiser lasted 4 seconds. When the light faded, there was nothing left but expanding plasma and metal vapor. Mitchell opened a channel to all frequencies in the sector. His message was broadcast to every ship, station, and planet within 50 light years. "This is humanity," he said. "For 30 years we tried diplomacy. We tried to fit in. We tried to be what you wanted us to be. You responded by murdering our people and calling it justice. That ends now. Our response will be equal to your provocations. We suggest you choose your next actions very carefully." News of the Pax Dominion's destruction spread across the galaxy in hours. Military analysts tried to understand how a small human destroyer had eliminated a capital ship so easily. The answer, when it came, shocked everyone. The humans had been lying about their technology for 30 years. General Mike Bradley stood in the command center on Luna Base, looking at displays that showed the real disposition of human forces. What the aliens saw as scattered colonies and trade posts was actually a military network that covered half the galaxy. "Every civilian station is a fortress," Bradley explained to his staff. "Every cargo ship is a weapons platform. Every research facility is an intelligence hub. We've been building this for 30 years while they looked down on us." Commander Kelly Adams highlighted positions on the strategic display. "The Zilani think they control the Kepler sector because we let them think it. The truth is, we've had control of their orbital platform since year 2. Their entire fleet is dead in space if we flip a switch." The scope of human deception was staggering. Mining ships carried planet-killer weapons. Research stations were actually fortress guns powerful enough to destroy battle fleets. Even civilian transports had hidden weapon systems that could take out military vessels. But the technology was not the real shock. The real shock was what it meant about human nature. Dr. Lisa Parker, now promoted to head of xenological studies, addressed a gathering of human military leaders. Her words would later be broadcast to every human settlement in the galaxy. "We are predators," she said simply. "We come from a world that tried to kill us every day. We evolved alongside creatures that could snap us in half, in environments that could end us in minutes. We learned patience because hasty hunters starve. We learned teamwork because lone wolves die. And we learn to hide our nature because prey animals are smarter when they know they're being hunted." She paused, looking around the room at faces that no longer hid their true nature. "For 30 years, we taught the galaxy to see us as harmless. We played weak. We played stupid. We played small. They believed it because they wanted to believe it. They needed to believe it, because deep down, they knew what we really were. They knew that nothing survives on a death world by being weak." The message continued across human space. On every world, in every ship, humans heard the same thing. The time for hiding was over. "We are apex predators from a death world," Parker concluded. "We spent 30 years teaching them to underestimate us. Now they're going to learn why that was the biggest mistake in galactic history." Across human space, weapons came online. Ships dropped their disguises. Stations revealed their true purposes. And for the first time in 30 years, humans stopped pretending to be civilized. The galaxy was about to remember why evolution had made humans the way they were. The Galactic Council emergency session was the largest gathering in the organization's history. Representatives from over 1,000 species filled the Great Hall on Nexus Prime. But for the first time in 30 years, humanity's seat was empty. Chancellor Vex of the Thexian Empire stood at the central podium. His crystalline body reflected the chamber's lights as he spoke. "The human uprising must be stopped immediately," he declared. "They have revealed weapons that violate dozens of galactic treaties. Their actions are an act of war against civilized space. Murmurs of agreement echoed through the chamber. The destruction of the Pax Dominion had sent shockwaves through every military in the galaxy. No one understood how humans had hidden such powerful weapons for so long. Instead of attending the council session, humanity sent a message. It appeared on every screen in the chamber, broadcast on all frequencies across galactic space. The speaker was Admiral Carol Hayes, a woman most aliens had dismissed as a minor logistics coordinator. For 3 decades, Hayes began, we have watched you abuse, murder, and control anyone who did not fit your narrow idea of civilization. You called us Deathworlders like it was an insult. You were right about one thing. We are from a death world. But you never understood what that really means. The message continued as reports came in of human fleets moving throughout the galaxy. Their movements were precise, coordinated, and terrifying in their efficiency. Death worlds do not create weakness, Hayes said. They create survivors. They create beings who can adapt to anything, survive everything, and overcome any obstacle. You mistook our restraint for weakness. You mistook our diplomacy for fear. You mistook our patience for surrender. Admiral Janet Cooper sat in her command chair aboard the UES Yorktown, hidden in the asteroid field at the edge of the Kepler system. Around her, dozens of other human ships waited in silence. To anyone watching, the system looked almost empty. Just a few scattered civilian stations and mining platforms. Solani Grand Fleet entering sensor range, reported her tactical officer. 237 ships, Admiral. They're coming in fast and confident. Cooper smiled coldly. The Zilani had been emboldened by their recent victory over the human colonists. They thought they could force humanity back into submission with a show of overwhelming force. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Let them come, Cooper said. Wait until they're fully committed to their attack run, then show them what a real Deathworld defense looks like. The Zilani fleet was impressive by any standard. Their flagship alone carried more firepower than most species possessed in their entire navies. Admiral Kresh of the Zilani stood on his bridge, confident that this show of force would bring the humans back in line. Target all human positions, Kresh ordered. We'll destroy their ships first, then their stations. When we're done, the survivors will remember their place. The Zilani ships opened fire on what they thought were defenseless human positions. Their weapons lit up space as they poured destruction toward the scattered human vessels. That was when Cooper gave the order that would end the Zilani as a spacefaring civilization. Activate the grid. Across the Kepler system, every human installation revealed its true nature. Mining platforms deployed massive cannon arrays. Research stations opened to reveal electronic warfare equipment that immediately jammed all Zilani communications. Even the asteroids themselves lit up with weapon signatures. The humans had not just militarized their ships and stations. They had turned the entire solar system into a weapon. Colonel Danny Walker stood in the command center on Ceres Base, watching tactical displays that showed the true scope of human preparation. What looked like a simple mining operation was actually the control hub for the most sophisticated defense network ever created. Fortress guns online, his tactical officer reported. Kinetic interceptors ready. Electronic warfare systems active. The Zilani fleet is trapped, sir. Walker had been planning this moment for 15 years. Every asteroid had been carefully positioned. Every mining station had been built with hidden weapon systems. Every civilian transport that had visited the system had left behind components for the trap. Fire, Walker said simply. The Zilani Grand Fleet discovered that they had flown into the most complete kill zone in galactic history. Kinetic rounds traveling at significant fractions of light speed tore through their formations. Energy weapons that had been disguised as mining lasers cut their capital ships in half. Electronic warfare systems turned their own missiles against them. Admiral Kresh had just enough time to realize what was happening before his flagship exploded around him. The humans had not just hidden weapons, they had hidden an entire military infrastructure that made every other defense system in the galaxy look like a children's toy. The battle lasted exactly 17 minutes. When it was over, there was nothing left of the Zilani fleet but debris and radiation. Dr. Lisa Parker watched the battle from her laboratory on Earth. As humanity's leading expert on alien psychology, she understood what this moment meant better than anyone. They never saw us as equals, she explained to the gathered reporters. To them, we were always pets. Dangerous pets that needed to be controlled, but pets nonetheless. They could not imagine that we might be smarter than them, stronger than them, better than them at war. Parker brought up a holographic display showing human expansion over the past 30 years. To most observers, it had looked random, chaotic, almost accidental. The truth was very different. Every colony was placed to support others, she continued. Every trade route was designed to move military equipment. Every research station was positioned to provide intelligence on alien movements. While they were laughing at our primitive ways, we were building the most advanced military network in galactic history. The scope of human planning was staggering. For 30 years, every human action had served a dual purpose. Civilian ships carried military components. Trade agreements provided access to strategic locations. Cultural exchanges gathered intelligence on alien weaknesses. We studied them, Parker said. We learned their languages, their customs, their military tactics, their technological capabilities. We understood them completely, and they never bothered to truly understand us at all. News of the Zilani fleet's destruction spread across the galaxy faster than the light from the explosions. Military analysts struggled to comprehend what they had witnessed. The humans had not just won a battle. They had demonstrated a level of strategic thinking and technological capability that rendered most galactic military doctrine obsolete. Captain Tony Martinez of the UES Constitution received new orders as his ship patrolled the edge of human space. The hegemony was mobilizing the largest battle fleet in galactic history. 47 species contributing over 3,000 ships. They intended to crush humanity once and for all. Martinez read his orders carefully. He was to meet this massive fleet alone. One ship against 3,000. Any other species would have called it suicide. Humans called it Tuesday. Set course for the rendezvous point, Martinez told his crew. Time to show them what one angry human can do when you kill his friends. The Constitution began its journey to what would become the most famous battle in galactic history. Behind it, human space continued its preparations. The galaxy was about to learn that the Kepler system had been just a warm-up exercise. The real demonstration of human capabilities was yet to come. The aftermath came swiftly. Within 72 hours of Captain Martinez's sacrifice, every species that had voted to condemn humanity faced a simple choice delivered through diplomatic channels. The message was identical to each government, signed by Earth's new military council. You have 24 hours to issue a formal apology and agree to reparations for 30 years of oppression. The message read, failure to comply will result in complete economic embargo and military action. Choose wisely. Most chose to apologize. The Karathi Republic was the first to respond, their message arriving within 6 hours. Ambassador Rel of the Karathi appeared, on screens across human space, his forearms spread in their traditional gesture of submission. The Karathi Republic formally apologizes for our failure to recognize human dignity, he said. We request immediate negotiation to establish fair trade agreements and mutual defense treaties. Similar messages flooded in from across the galaxy. The Altarian Confederacy offered exclusive mining rights to 3 systems. The Rigel Commerce Guild promised humans equal status in all trade negotiations. Even the proud Vegan Empire sent a formal apology, though their ambassador looked like he was swallowing poison while delivering it. But not everyone chose wisdom. The Draconian hegemony, still reeling from the loss of half their grand fleet, decided to test human resolve one final time. Chancellor Vex announced that the hegemony would never bow to Deathworld savages and began gathering the surviving ships of their coalition. General Mike Bradley stood in the war room beneath Geneva, watching intelligence reports flow in from across hegemony space. The aliens were making the same mistake they had made for 30 years. They still did not understand who they were dealing with. Let them come, Bradley said to his staff. One more demonstration should convince any remaining doubters that humanity is not to be underestimated. Admiral Janet Cooper, promoted to head of strategic operations after her victory at Kepler, studied the hegemony troop movements with professional interest. They're gathering at Rally Point Sigma, she reported. Looks like about 800 ships, still impressive by galactic standards. Bradley smiled grimly. Send Captain Jennifer Walsh to meet them. Solo mission, same parameters as Martinez. Cooper raised an eyebrow. Just one ship again? The hegemony will think we're mocking them. We are, Bradley replied. That's the point. The UES Defiance dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sigma system to find the largest remaining fleet, in hegemony space waiting for them. 837 ships arranged in a perfect battle formation. Their combined firepower enough to glass a dozen worlds. Captain Jennifer Walsh sat in her command chair, looking at tactical displays that showed her tiny destroyer surrounded by an ocean of enemy contacts. Her crew worked calmly around her, preparing for what they all knew would be their final mission. This is Admiral Kex of the Hegemony Fleet, came the transmission from the alien flagship. Human ship, you will surrender immediately. We have learned from our previous encounter. Your trick will not work twice. Walsh opened a channel to respond, her voice carrying clearly across space. Admiral, you seem to misunderstand the situation. Captain Martinez didn't use a trick. He demonstrated human resolve. Today I'm going to show you human creativity. Unlike Martinez, Walsh did not accelerate her engine core toward the enemy fleet. Instead, she fired it directly into the system's star. The star was already unstable, held in delicate balance between expansion and collapse. The Constitution's engine core, carrying the mass energy equivalent of a small moon, pushed it over the edge. Walsh's final transmission was broadcast on all frequencies as her ship accelerated away from the dying star at maximum speed. You wanted to see what Deathworlders could do, she said calmly. We don't just fight battles. We change the rules of physics when we have to. Enjoy your supernova. The star collapsed and exploded in the span of 30 seconds. The Hegemony fleet, caught in the system's gravity well, had no chance to escape. 837 warships, along with everything else in the system, were consumed by the expanding wave of stellar fire. Jennifer Walsh and the crew of the Defiance escaped in the last possible second, their ship's hull glowing cherry red from radiation as they jumped to hyperspace. When they emerged at the nearest human station, Walsh sent a simple message to Earth Command. Mission accomplished. The Sigma system is now a navigation hazard. Recommend updating star charts. News of the Sigma supernova spread across the galaxy, faster than the expanding shell of radiation. The Hegemony's remaining forces surrendered within hours. The few surviving Hegemony worlds begged for mercy and received it, conditional on their acceptance of human oversight of their military forces. The galaxy's power structure had been permanently altered. The great empires that had dominated galactic politics for millennia now deferred to human judgment on military matters. The same species they had dismissed as primitive Deathworlders had become the ultimate arbiters of galactic security. Dr. Lisa Parker, now serving as Earth's chief diplomatic advisor, addressed the reformed Galactic Council from the podium, where humans had once begged for basic recognition. For 30 years, you taught us that strength without restraint was barbarism, she said to the assembled representatives. Today we teach you that restraint without strength is slavery. We tried to be what you wanted us to be. Now you will learn to accept us as we are. The changes came quickly. Human colonies that had operated under alien oversight for decades suddenly found themselves granted full autonomy. Trade agreements that had favored alien interests were renegotiated on equal terms. Military restrictions that had limited human expansion were quietly dropped. Captain Kelly Adams, commanding the UES Explorer in the Outer Rim, reported a typical example of the new order. The Zelani remnant government had tried to claim salvage rights on human mining operations in the former Zelani sector. I told them they could file a complaint with the Galactic Council, Adams reported to her superior. Then I mentioned that we had a new mining laser that could cut through planet-sized asteroids. Somehow they decided their claim wasn't that important after all. Similar incidents occurred throughout human space. Alien governments that had spent decades harassing human operations suddenly discovered urgent business elsewhere whenever human ships appeared on their sensors. The psychological effect was as important as the military one. For 30 years, aliens had seen humans as inferior beings to be controlled and managed. Now they saw humans as the most dangerous predators in the galaxy, held in check only by their own restraint. Ambassador Frank Collins, speaking from the new human embassy complex on Nexus Prime, summarized the change in a message broadcast to every human settlement in the galaxy. They used to see us as pets, he said. Dangerous pets that needed to be kept on a leash, but pets nonetheless. Now they see us as what we've always been, apex predators who chose to be civilized. The difference is that now they understand. The choice was always ours to make. 5 years after Captain Martinez's sacrifice, the galaxy had settled into a new equilibrium. Human space expanded rapidly, with no alien government daring to challenge human territorial claims. Human merchants traded on equal terms with all species. Human explorers pushed into uncharted regions without fear of alien interference. But the most important change was subtler. Human children born after the Day of Reckoning, as historians called it, grew up knowing they were citizens of the galaxy's dominant military power. They learned alien languages not as subjects trying to please their masters, but as equals engaging with neighbors. Dr. Parker, now elderly but still sharp, gave her final speech as chief diplomatic advisor to a gathering of young human officers, preparing for deep space assignments. Remember, she told them, we didn't win through superior technology or overwhelming numbers. We won because we understood something our enemies never learned. True strength comes from the choice to be gentle. True power comes from the decision to show mercy. For 30 years, we chose to be less than we were. When they forced us to show our true nature, they learned why we had been holding back. She looked out at the young faces before her, humans who would carry Earth's message to the stars. The galaxy knows now what Deathworlders really are. We're not monsters, though we can be when we choose. We're not conquerors, though we could be if we wanted. We're survivors. We adapt, we endure, and we protect what we love. And if you threaten what we love, you learn why evolution made us the way we are. 50 years later, children of every species learned the story in school. The day the Deathworlders quit playing nice. The day humanity reminded the galaxy that sometimes the most dangerous predator is the one that chooses not to hunt. The galaxy remembered, and it never forgot. The Hegemony war fleet gathered at the edge of the neutral zone was the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. 3,047 warships representing 47 different species stretched across space like a metal constellation. At its center, the flagship Eternal Dominion carried enough firepower to sterilize entire worlds. Admiral Thex of the Hegemony stood on his command bridge, looking at tactical displays that showed his overwhelming advantage. His fleet outmassed the entire human military by a factor of 10,000 to 1. This would not be a battle. It would be an extermination. The humans have sent one ship to meet us, his tactical officer reported, disbelief clear in his voice. A destroyer-class vessel, the UES Constitution. Thex laughed, the sound like grinding metal. One ship? Are they surrendering? Across the galaxy, representatives of every major government watched the confrontation through long-range sensors and communication relays. This would be the moment that humanity learned their place in the galactic order. The moment that Deathworld arrogance was finally crushed. Captain Tony Martinez sat in the command chair of the Constitution, looking at a tactical display that showed his ship as a tiny dot surrounded by thousands of enemy contacts. His crew worked quietly around him, their faces calm despite the impossible odds. All systems ready, Captain, reported his executive officer, Commander Beth Collins. We're outnumbered 3,000 to 1. Just another day in the human navy. Martinez smiled. Collins had been with him for 10 years. She understood, as all humans did, that sometimes you had to fight impossible battles. That was what made you human. The Hegemony fleet moved forward, in perfect formation, their combined mass blotting out stars. Admiral Thex opened communications to all frequencies, his message broadcast to every corner of the galaxy. Human vessel, you will surrender immediately, he declared. Your species has violated galactic law and attacked civilized worlds. Submit now, and some of your people may be allowed to live as slaves. Martinez's response became the most famous transmission in galactic history. "You murdered 17 farmers for the crime of growing food," he said calmly. "You killed children because their parents were better at agriculture than you expected. You called it justice. The Constitution continued forward, one small ship approaching a fleet that could have conquered entire sectors. We gave you 30 years to learn who we really are," Martinez continued. 30 years to understand that cooperation was not weakness, that restraint was not fear, that our willingness to follow your rules was not surrender. Admiral Thex was growing impatient. "Human, you have 30 seconds to surrender before we turn your ship into dust." Martinez checked his chronometer. Then he gave the order that changed galactic history forever. "You want to see what Deathworlders look like when they stop playing nice?" he asked. "Computer, initiate final protocol. Authorization Martinez Alpha 77. What happened next would be debated by military historians for centuries. Martinez did not fire conventional weapons at the hegemony fleet. Instead, he fired his ship's entire engine core directly at their formation. The Constitution's fusion reactor, accelerated to 92% of light speed, struck the center of the alien fleet with the force of a collapsing star. The explosion created a brief new sun that could be seen from 17 systems. When the light faded, over half the hegemony fleet was simply gone. Vaporized, turned into their component atoms and scattered across space. The surviving ships fled in terror, their formations broken, their commanders screaming orders that no one followed. In less than 10 seconds, the most powerful military force in galactic history had been reduced to a few hundred crippled vessels running for their lives. Martinez's final transmission, sent in the seconds before impact, was recorded by every intelligence service in the galaxy. "We warned you. We tried to be civilized. But you wanted monsters. So let me show you what real monsters look like when you threaten their families." The shockwave from the explosion reached Earth 6 hours later. In the command center beneath Geneva, General Mike Bradley watched the tactical displays with grim satisfaction. Operation Reminder was complete. Signal from the Constitution's automated beacon, his communications officer reported. "Captain, Martinez sends his regards and says the message has been delivered." Bradley nodded. Tony Martinez had been a good captain and a good man. His sacrifice would save millions of human lives by showing the galaxy what happened when you pushed humanity too far. Across human space, the effect was immediate. Colony worlds that had lived under alien oppression for decades suddenly found their overlords very interested in negotiation. Trade disputes that had dragged on for years were resolved in humanity's favor within hours. Military patrols that had routinely harassed human ships suddenly found urgent business elsewhere. Dr. Lisa Parker addressed the Galactic Council via hologram from her office on Earth. For the first time in 30 years, every representative listened in complete silence. "You asked us to be civilized," she said. "So we were civilized for 30 years. We followed your laws even when they were unfair. We accepted your judgments even when they were wrong. We submitted to your authority even when you used it to murder our people." The council chamber was completely quiet. Representatives who had spent decades looking down on humans now avoided meeting her gaze. "Captain Martinez could have fired his weapons and destroyed perhaps a dozen of your ships," Parker continued. "Instead, he turned himself into a weapon and destroyed 1,000. That is the difference between human restraint and human resolve. We held back for 30 years. What you saw today was us still holding back." The implications of her words sank in slowly. If destroying 1,000 ships was restraint, what would human resolve look like? Ambassador Frank Collins, speaking from the human embassy on Nexus Prime, provided the answer. "Every human ship in the galaxy carries enough firepower to crack a planet," he said simply. "Every human station can defend itself against a battle fleet. Every human colony is prepared to fight a siege that could last decades. We spent 30 years building the most comprehensive military network in galactic history, while you thought we were just trying to fit in." Collins brought up a holographic display showing human positions throughout the galaxy. What had looked like random civilian expansion was revealed as a carefully planned military deployment. We have fortress worlds that can hold off entire armadas. We have hidden weapon platforms in every major system. We have ships disguised as civilian transports that carry enough kinetic weapons to destroy space stations. For 30 years, you lived next to the most dangerous military force in the galaxy and never knew it. The truth was terrifying in its scope. Humanity had not just been preparing for war. They had been preparing for total war. Every human in space was a potential soldier. Every human installation was a potential fortress. Every human ship was a potential weapon, and they had done it all while appearing harmless. Chancellor Vex of the Thexian Empire stood to address the council, his crystalline body trembling with fear and rage. "The humans must be stopped," he declared. "They are too dangerous to be allowed to exist. We must unite every species in the galaxy against them." Collins smiled coldly. "You're welcome to try, but remember what just happened to the last fleet that threatened us. And remember that Captain Martinez died alone. If you attack our colonies, our worlds, our families, you won't be facing one ship with a single captain willing to sacrifice himself. You'll be facing every human in the galaxy, and we'll all be very, very angry." The threat hung in the air like a poisonous gas. Across the galaxy, military commanders began calculating the cost of war with humanity. The numbers were not encouraging. The age of human submission was over. The galaxy would have to learn to live with humanity as equals, or it would learn what happened when you tried to exterminate apex predators from a death world. Most chose equality. Those who did not would soon learn why that was a mistake.